Hey everybody! Last week I went to a place called Sayin Gardens that's near my home, and they've got all kinds of really cool looking flowers and plants and things like that. And I shot a few rolls of film and had a good time. In fact, this is one of the shots I took, and I was really happy with this one. The problem is I don't know anything about flowers. I had no clue what these flowers are. And so I turned to ChatGPT. I uploaded the images and I said, could you tell me what flowers these are? And did a pretty good job of it. I had to do a few nudges here and there to get the correct answers, but at the end, had it all sorted out. My job was done. But I had this idea. I looked, I said, wait a minute, I've uploaded a whole bunch of pictures. And I said, could you do me a favor? Could you rate them from most compelling to least interesting and tell me why? And it did it. It actually gave me a ranking of all of my photos that I uploaded, and it said why each one was either compelling or, in the case of the least, why it was kind of dull. And that set me down another path. These are 7 black and white prints I made over the past few months. And they were shot using the Pentax 17, cool little half-frame camera. I've shared some of these photos before online, but I wanted to try something different. I thought, what if I let AI play the role of the photo critic? Not just one voice, but 2. To keep things clean, I picked 7 images, 7 that I liked from my Pentax 17 rolls, and I made sure they covered a range of subjects. In fact, let me share them right here. We've got a chair, some bags hanging on the wall, the woods with a stream going through the middle, this guy sitting at a park bench on a hillside with a lamp next to him, a cool park bench sitting in a splash of sunlight, a hunk of twisted steel, and finally, this tree that was clearly twisted and bent during a storm, but it's still alive and blocking the path. So these were the 7 that I uploaded to 2 different ChatGPT personas that I created. And I asked them to do the same thing, to grade them, put them in order, tell me why it liked some and why it didn't. And the results were surprising. So I used prompts to create these 2 personas. One of them, gentle and encouraging. The other, not so much.
Hello, I'm Eleanor Marchand. I've spent most of my life around photography in galleries, in dark rooms, and over cups of coffee with photographers trying to find their voice. I believe a great photograph has something to say, even when it says it quietly. I'm here to help you listen to what your images might already be whispering.
I think I'm going to like Eleanor. She sounds like my kind of person. Let's see the other.
Basil Harrow, critic, lecturer, occasional reluctant judge of amateur portfolios. I was promised wine and silence, but instead I've been handed a stack of black and white soul-searching. Very well. I'll be fair. But I won't be nice.
Eleanor and Basil, AI all the way. The names, the faces, even the voices were generated to match the personalities that I had in mind. And I have to say, the results are spot on. I kept their sessions totally separate. No cross-referencing, no peeking. Eleanor didn't see Basil's remarks, and Basil, well, he would have burned Eleanor's commentary out of spite. So with that, I gave them the prints. Before the critique began, I wanted the process to be as AI-driven as possible, so I asked ChatGPT to help me title the images. One at a time, I uploaded each photo, and I asked for 5 or 6 titles, and I also asked for its pick. It responded with some poetic, moody, and sometimes clever suggestions, but it always picked a favorite. Like this one. It suggested The Interview, And suddenly, this empty chair in a corner became something a lot more psychological, a lot deeper. Only once did I intervene, and it was for this one, The Twisted Steel. It first suggested something poetic but vague, September sky, I remember. And I said, I don't think that everybody's going to instantly recognize this as a piece of steel from 9/11. So I want to make sure that that is part of the title, something that brings us to that. And the answer, Steel from September. More direct. It struck the right balance. Simple, respectful, and clearly tied to 9/11. I wanted to treat the titles as part of the experiment, not just decoration, but something that the critics would respond to. And with the titles locked in, it was time to hear what Eleanor and Basil had to say. Let's talk about this print. This one was called Carried. And something that was really cool was that AI spotted things I hadn't even noticed. Like mention was made of my nephew's painted portrait in the background here that I had forgotten was there. They both liked that. That was kind of cool. Let's take a look what Eleanor had to say.
Nuanced composition, layered meaning. It feels like someone's private space, observed without intrusion.
That's exactly the kind of reaction I hope for. You notice the details, and then you find the story.
It should collapse under its own preciousness. And yet somehow it holds. Vermeer would have painted a tote bag like this if he were broke in Brooklyn.
It's a bit of a burn there, but he's not wrong. This one was called Reserved. This is the image of the park bench under the splash of sunlight.
You've achieved something many photographers strive for. You let the light dictate the composition. That sunbeam on the bench isn't just exposure, it's narrative.
The light chose the subject. I just stepped into the right spot.
There's a hot spot in the top left that might be a touch too aggressive. And a slight crop from the bottom wouldn't hurt. Tighten it up. Let the bench breathe.
Fair enough. There's an 8x10 print of this hanging on my wall that I printed months ago, and it has the base cropped out. He's right, though. I really should burn in a little bit more in this upper corner. This is distracting. And now, Steel from September.
The light sculpting across the rivets and their long, almost eerie shadows. It feels like a respectful portrait, not a commentary.
That's what I wanted. Reverence, not drama.
This isn't a photo, this is residue. The very bottom's too dark, burned too deep. I want more detail. Dodge the base, burn the sky, then we'll talk.
And I did. What you're seeing now in my hands is the corrected version. I dodged the base, I burned the sky, and Basil was right. Again. Now let's take a look at this one. This is the one that was called Higher Ground. This photo shouldn't work. The angle's weird, the space feels wrong, but I couldn't let it go. This one seemed like magic to me when I first saw it on the proof sheet.
The steep diagonal tilt of the grassy hill transforms what would be a pedestrian subject into a near graphic abstraction. The negative space breathes.
She saw what I saw. That feeling.
And you didn't shoot a photo, you composed a whisper. If I saw this hanging in a gallery, I'd scoff. Then I'd walk away. And then I'd come back and stare.
Honestly, that's the reaction I want from a photo. What really surprised me was how technical the feedback got. They weren't just reacting to subject matter or mood. They noticed tonal balance, edge distractions, even how light and shadow were behaving throughout the frame. One of the cool things was this one, the Steel from 9/11. Down in the corner, right where my finger is, there were some trees. And Basil called that out right away. Those are distractions. Those should be cropped. And in my finished print, you'll notice there are no trees in the lower corner. He was spot on with that. Feedback, it's one thing, and printing is another. The things that they suggested were all about making a better print. With a few of these, I didn't just hear the critique, I went into the darkroom and made the changes. With others, I left them as they were. In Steel for September, Basil's comment about the base being too dark had me rethinking the entire print. I didn't just dodge the shadows. I adjusted the relationship between steel and sky to shift the emotional weight. And in Reserved, I made subtle changes. I didn't just follow his instructions. I found a version which made more sense to me once I heard what he saw. But not all suggestions lead to change. That's something I appreciated too. Both Eleanor and Basil knew when to leave an image alone. Higher Ground looks like a compositional mess, but they got it. They understood that its imbalance was the balance. These were the details that really made this feel like a critique, not just commentary. They weren't just responding to what the image looked like on the screen. They were responding to what it could become in the darkroom. Both Eleanor and Basil were built from the same model, ChatGPT 4.0. Same training data, same image input. You'd think that their opinions would be basically identical with a superficial change in the way it was worded. But no, the differences ran deeper than tone. Eleanor's favorite was Reserved, a quiet bench lit by a streak of afternoon sun.
This image hums. It's not about the bench, it's about the light choosing where to fall. The way it isolates the subject gives the scene a quiet presence.
Basil's top pick? Steel from September. Twisted metal pulled from the wreckage of 9/11.
It's not a photo, it's a scar. The framing does just enough to contain the violence in the metal without trying to decorate it. If I were forced to feel something today, this would be the reason.
Same model, same images, but look at what they're drawn to. One sees peace and stillness, the other sees weight and ruin. And both are right. There was even more agreement when the photo didn't quite land, but even then, Eleanor and Basil focused on entirely different things.
This image is striking in its simplicity. A single chair centered in an empty room. It draws the eye immediately. But after that, it hesitates. The composition is clean, but almost too controlled. There's a tension in the space, a feeling that something should be happening, but nothing is. It leaves me wanting just a bit more, a shadow, a gesture, a trace of someone who was there before.
This isn't a portrait. This is a page from an IKEA catalogue that got too sad to finish printing.
He does have a way with words, and while I still like the mood of this image, this is not my favorite from the whole bunch. Then there's Higher Ground, a photo that looks like it's breaking all the rules, and yet both of them told me to leave it alone. Some of these photos shouldn't work. They break compositional rules. They're unbalanced, too open, too still. But to me, it's like jazz. The theory came after the music. The musicians played the music, and then somebody wrote it all down and started writing rules to say why it sounded so good. Photography is the same. Something looks good, you know it looks good, and then somebody comes along and says, here's some guidelines that'll help you make things look good. But those are just guidelines, and sometimes a photo just works. Everything, their names, their voices, even their faces, was generated to match the personalities I described. But the critiques, those came from real analysis. The model saw the photos and responded like a human would. You're probably wondering, how is this possible? How can AI look at a photo and say, oh, crop this corner, or this light tells a story, or maybe burn in over here? How is that possible? Here's the elevator pitch. generative AI doesn't see like we do, but it's been trained on millions of images and descriptions. So when you upload a photo, it compares the photo to patterns it's seen before, how light works, what compositions feel good, what composition is strong, which draws the eye. It's not magic. It's just a very well-read assistant with a ridiculous number of art books in its head. This whole exercise was a whole lot more fun than I expected. The outcome was anything but what I was expecting. And you know what I had most fun with? I think it was choosing the voices. I worked quite a bit using the very same kinds of prompts that were used to create the personas. But I found that Basil was very easy to get down. This kind of a snooty guy. And that one, that was easy to put together. Eleanor, on the other hand, took some work. And I tried different prompts. I had to go through various options that the tool generated. And I finally found the perfect grandmotherly woman who had a kind but strong voice and very confident. And there was this little edge. It sounds like there may have been a few packs of Pall Malls in her past at some time. But once I had them dialed in, I was able to have each of them speak their own words, and that was fun. This was a neat experiment, and one of the best things is now I actually have the two personas in ChatGPT. I was able to say, can you remember these personas so that I can use them in the future? So if I ever want Eleanor to give me advice on a photo, I can say, Eleanor, could you please critique these photos? Same thing with Basil. All I have to do is say, Basil, could you tell me what these photos are about and what you think about them? And I will get the very same personas giving me either kind, gentle advice or roasting me.
Surprisingly tolerable. That wasn't a complete waste of my time. Tell your cousin he owes me dinner. Good wine. None of that screw cap nonsense.
That's all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching.